You walk into a room. You haven't said a single word, and it's already over. In the next 7 seconds, the person across from you has already decided if you're competent, trustworthy, and worth their time. Not in 7 minutes. Not after your handshake. Not after you've had a chance to explain your experience or demonstrate your expertise. 7 seconds. And here's what makes that even more unsettling. They don't know they're doing it. The judgment happens automatically, beneath conscious awareness, before either of you has exchanged a single word. Today we're breaking down the science behind why this happens, what people are actually measuring when they look at you, and the 3 specific things you can control to make those 7 seconds work in your favor, every single time. The science starts at Princeton University, where researchers made a discovery that stopped the psychology world in its tracks. They showed study participants photographs of strangers for just 1/10 of a second, literally a blink, and asked them to rate those strangers on traits like competence, trustworthiness, and likability. Then they ran the same experiment with a different group, this time giving participants as much time as they wanted to study the same photographs. No time limit. Look as long as you need. The results were remarkable. The snap judgments made in 1/10 of a second were almost identical to the judgments made with unlimited time. More time didn't change the verdict. It just made people more confident in the judgment they'd already formed in that first blink. This is what psychologists call thin slicing, the brain's extraordinary ability to find patterns and draw meaningful conclusions from razor-thin slices of experience. It's not a flaw in human cognition. It's a survival mechanism your brain developed over thousands of years. The ability to assess threat, trustworthiness, and capability almost instantaneously kept our ancestors alive. The problem is that in a modern professional context, a job interview, a board presentation, a first client meeting, that same ancient mechanism is running in the background, making consequential judgments about you before you've had a chance to demonstrate anything at all. You're being evaluated before you open your mouth, before you present your credentials, before you say a single impressive thing. The question isn't whether the judgment happens, it's whether you understand what's being measured. Research from Harvard Business School helps answer that question. Their studies narrow the judgment down to 2 primary dimensions that people assess almost immediately: warmth and competence. Warmth is evaluated first, nearly instantaneously. Before your brain processes anything else, it's asking a fundamental question that goes back to our earliest ancestors. Is this person safe? Are they a friend or a threat? Do they have good intentions toward me? Competence comes a fraction of a second later. Are they capable? Do they carry themselves like someone who knows what they're doing? Do they project the kind of quiet confidence that signals mastery? Here's what makes this research so important for professionals. Most people obsess over competence signals. They rehearse their credentials. They prepare their talking points. They focus entirely on what they're going to say, and they completely neglect warmth, which is the dimension the brain processes first. Walk into a room projecting coldness, even unintentionally, and no amount of competence will fully recover the impression. The brain has already categorized you. Beyond warmth and competence, researchers have identified a cluster of signals that are processed almost simultaneously. Your posture, your eye contact, your pace of movement, your facial expression, and your clothing. Each one is feeding data into the other person's unconscious assessment before a single word is spoken. The 1960 presidential debate between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon is one of the most studied examples of first impressions in history. It was the first televised presidential debate, and what happened that night changed American politics forever. People who listened to the debate on the radio overwhelmingly thought Nixon won. He was experienced, articulate, and substantive. People who watched on television thought Kennedy won by a landslide. The difference had nothing to do with the words. Kennedy appeared calm, composed, and warm. He looked directly into the camera. He moved with deliberate ease. Nixon, by contrast, was visibly uncomfortable. He was sweating under the studio lights. He looked pale. His eyes shifted. His body language communicated anxiety at exactly the moment the country was deciding whether to trust him with the presidency. Same words, completely different first impression. History remembers Kennedy's performance as one of the most decisive moments of the entire race. More recently, researchers studying venture capital pitch meetings found that investors made preliminary judgments about founders within the first 20 seconds of a presentation. Before any financials were discussed, before any product was demonstrated, before any market data was presented. 20 seconds. The impression was forming before the founder had finished their opening sentence. So what do you actually do with this? There are 3 things you can control, and controlling them consistently will transform how any room receives you. Number 1, your entry. The moment you walk through the door is the moment the assessment begins. Most people rush their entry. They're already thinking about what they're going to say, and their body shows it. Instead, slow down deliberately. Take 1 full breath before you enter. Stand at your full height. Move at about 80% of your normal pace. Deliberate, unhurried movement is one of the most powerful nonverbal signals of confidence available to you. Number 2, your eye contact. Look at people like you are genuinely glad to see them. Not a stare. Research shows that 3 to 5 seconds of initial eye contact is the sweet spot. It communicates presence, warmth, and confidence simultaneously. People who avoid eye contact in those first moments trigger an unconscious threat response in others. People who hold it naturally trigger trust. Number 3, your first expression. Before you speak, let a slight, genuine expression of warmth land on your face. Not a performed smile, something real. This matters more than most people realize. Mirror neurons in the brain cause people to unconsciously mimic and internalize the emotional state they observe in others. Walk in projecting calm confidence and warmth, and the room begins to feel it too. 7 seconds. That's what you get. But now you know exactly what's being measured, why the judgment happens, and precisely what you can do to control it. If you found this useful, subscribe so you don't miss next week's video. We're going deep on what the world's best TED speakers do in their first 30 seconds to make sure an audience never looks away. And drop a comment below. What's the highest stakes first impression you've ever had to make? I read everyone.